Reports are spreading about $2,000 tariff refund checks tied to a new Trump economic plan, and people are asking one big question right now. Are Americans about to get another major payment? Because this is not a normal stimulus check, this is not Social Security, and this is not coming from Congress in the usual way. This idea is coming from tariff money, money collected from foreign imports, and it could be sent back to American households. Now, before you get too excited, there are a lot of details you need to understand. Some people could benefit, others might see prices rise, and the political fight behind this plan is already intense. But here's the part that's shocking. Some advisors close to Trump are floating a $2,000 refund per household, calling it a tariff dividend for Americans. If that happens, it could change your finances in 2026 and beyond. And this is not just about free money. This could affect Social Security, taxes, inflation, and even your grocery bill. So stay with me because what happens next will surprise you. Now, let's slow this down and explain what this plan actually is, because tariffs sound confusing and a lot of people are misunderstanding what's really being proposed. First, what is a tariff? A tariff is basically a tax on foreign goods coming into the United States. When another country sells products to the U.S., the government charges extra money on those imports. That money goes straight to the U.S. Treasury. Trump used tariffs heavily during his previous presidency. He called them a tool to protect American factories and workers. Now, according to several policy advisors and early economic drafts, he wants to expand tariffs on a massive scale if he returns to the White House. We're talking about broad tariffs on imports from China, Europe, and other major trading partners. Some proposals mention tariffs of 10% across the board, with even higher rates on certain countries. So, where does the $2,000 refund idea come in? Here's what insiders are discussing. The government would collect billions, possibly hundreds of billions, in tariff revenue. Instead of letting all that money sit in federal programs, a portion could be sent back directly to Americans as a refund or dividend. Imagine this. A system where the government collects extra money from imported goods, but instead of keeping it all, it sends a portion back to American households in the form of a check. Think of it as a national rebate tied to trade. Early ideas circulating among conservative policy groups suggest an average refund of around $2,000 per household per year. That number is not final, but it's the figure gaining the most attention in political discussions. The logic behind it is straightforward and politically appealing. Supporters, particularly Trump allies, argue that tariffs are a way for the government to raise revenue without touching income taxes. They claim that foreign countries and companies are effectively paying, and by refunding a portion of the collected tariffs, the government can directly support American families. On paper, it sounds simple. Tariffs go up, the government collects money from imports, and some of it comes back to households. But the reality is more complicated. While the idea of a tariff dividend check sounds patriotic and like a new kind of stimulus, tariffs are not free money. When tariffs rise, companies often pass the extra costs on to consumers, which means electronics, clothing, cars, and groceries could all become more expensive. So even if a household receives a $2,000 check, the higher cost of goods could offset some or all of that benefit. This is the hidden trade-off that most headlines overlook. Economists warn that while the policy might seem to provide immediate relief, it could contribute to inflation, especially if tariffs are applied aggressively or provoke retaliation from trading partners. The structure of the potential refund is also a key consideration. Early drafts suggest multiple possibilities: a flat per-household payment, a per-person payment similar to pandemic stimulus checks, or targeting middle-class and lower-income households while excluding high earners. Some proposals suggest linking the refund to tax filings either as a tax credit or a direct Treasury payment, with each option carrying its own implications for timing, eligibility, and taxation. A couple could potentially receive $2,000, a family of four could get more, while a single filer might receive less. But nothing is finalized. The proposals are still in discussion, and Congress would have to approve major elements for any plan to move forward. Politically, this is a high-stakes idea. Some Republicans see it as a pro-worker, America First policy that delivers tangible benefits to citizens, while others are wary of the economic consequences, including potential retaliation, slower growth, and higher prices. Democrats often frame the plan as a disguised stimulus that could worsen inflation. The scale being discussed is much larger than previous tariff efforts, with conservative think tank estimates suggesting tariffs could generate over $500 billion in revenue over several years. Even returning a portion of that in the form of checks could make $2,000 per household mathematically possible, but it would reduce revenue available for other federal programs, potentially impacting deficits, Medicare, Social Security, and infrastructure funding. The plan is essentially a massive economic experiment where winners and losers could emerge depending on income level, household size, and sector of employment. For seniors and people on fixed incomes, there is additional complexity. If structured like stimulus checks, these payments may not count as taxable income for Social Security purposes, but alternative structures could affect taxes or benefits. Meanwhile, rising costs from tariffs could offset the value of the checks, leaving some households with little net gain. Employers importing materials could face higher costs, which might affect wages, hiring, and even job security in certain industries. Scammers are already exploiting the idea, sending fake texts, emails, and calls claiming to release checks in exchange for personal information or fees. It's crucial to understand that no legitimate government program would ever ask for money to access a refund. Timing is another challenge. Legislation, debates, court challenges, and administrative setup mean that even if this policy is adopted, checks could take months or years to arrive. This is not instant money, and planning finances around it is risky. The idea is a bold experiment in how governments might directly redistribute revenue from trade, and even if this specific plan changes, similar proposals could resurface in the future. As this unfolds, it is vital to stay informed from official sources, safeguard personal data, and approach budgeting conservatively. Treat any potential refund as a bonus, not guaranteed income. Remember, Social Security and other retirement benefits remain protected by law, and changes in Washington occur slowly, with plenty of time to prepare. This concept, while controversial, shows how political and economic strategies can intersect, offering Americans a glimpse at how government policy could evolve in the coming years. Now, I want to hear from you. How would you use a $2,000 tariff refund check if it actually happens? Do you think it would truly help offset rising costs, or do you worry it would be eaten up by inflation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. While you're at it, make sure to subscribe to RaisMoneyTalks so you don't miss any updates on this story or other money-saving insights. Your voice matters, and your perspective could help others navigate these complex policy changes. So let's break this down even further for clarity. The key takeaway is that this is not a guaranteed payout, but a proposal being seriously discussed behind closed doors. If Congress approves parts of the plan, households could see one-time or periodic payments that aim to redistribute tariff revenue. The exact amount, structure, eligibility, and timing are all up in the air. The economic impact could be significant, with higher prices for imports offsetting some of the intended benefits, while potential retaliatory measures from other countries could affect American exports and jobs. Depending on how it is implemented, the checks could be treated as a tax credit or direct payment, taxable or tax-free, with varying consequences for seniors, low-income families, and working Americans. Even if checks are issued, they could be delayed, targeted, or adjusted based on congressional decisions and political negotiations. While it may sound like a simple solution, it is actually a massive policy experiment with real-world consequences for families, businesses, and the economy at large. That's why it's important to stay vigilant, informed, and cautious. Protect your personal information, don't fall for scams, and approach any potential refund as a bonus, not a certainty. Keep in mind, Social Security payments, retirement benefits, and essential government programs are still secured by law, so your core financial foundation remains stable. For working families, retirees, and anyone receiving government benefits, this plan could be a temporary boost, but may come with trade-offs, especially if inflation rises as a result of tariffs. Whether this becomes law, pilot programs are implemented, or it remains a talking point, the discussion itself highlights the evolving nature of government policy on trade, taxation, and direct payments to citizens. Stay alert for official announcements, legislation updates, and IRS communications. And once again, I want to hear from you. How would a $2,000 tariff refund check change your household budget? Comment below, share your thoughts, and if you haven't already, hit subscribe on RaisMoneyTalks so you never miss critical updates that could impact your wallet. Your financial awareness is the first step toward navigating these complex economic policies. Let's keep the conversation going, stay informed, and be prepared for whatever comes next.